Jake wiped the grease from his hands and looked around his small repair shop. The space was not much to look at, just four walls covered in shelves full of parts, tools hanging from hooks, and a worn workbench in the center. But it was his, and he was proud of it. Station Meridian was home to dozens of alien species, all living and working together in the massive structure that floated in space. The human quarter was smaller than most others, tucked away in a corner near the docking bays. Jake had set up his shop there 3 years ago, and word had slowly spread that he could fix almost anything. The door chimed, and Jake looked up to see it enter. The alien was tall and covered in dark green scales that caught the light. His eyes were golden and nervous. We're known across the galaxy for being proud and formal, but this one looked worried. "Can I help you?" Jake asked, putting down his tools. The clutched a package wrapped in cloth against his chest. "You are the human mechanic, yes, the one who fixes things." "That's me, Jake. What have you got there?" The alien looked over his shoulder at the empty street outside, then stepped closer to the counter. "I am Vex. I need something repaired. It is very important, but I cannot tell you who it belongs to. Can you agree to this?" Jake shrugged. "Sure. I don't need to know who owns something to fix it. Let me see what you've got." Vex carefully unwrapped the cloth, revealing a mechanical dragon. It was beautiful, about the size of a large cat, with scales made from some kind of crystal metal that shimmered even in the dim light of the shop. Tiny gears were visible through clear panels along its sides. Its wings were folded against its body, and its eyes were dark and lifeless. Jake let out a low whistle. "That's some fancy work. Looks expensive." "Can you repair it?" Vex asked, his voice tight with hope. Jake picked up the dragon carefully, turning it over in his hands. The craftsmanship was incredible, far better than anything he had seen before. The weight felt right, and the joints moved smoothly even though the dragon was clearly not working. "What's wrong with it?" Jake asked. "It does not function. It has been broken for many years. Many technicians have tried to fix it, but they all said it was impossible. The power source is too old, they said. No replacement parts exist." Jake raised an eyebrow. "They said impossible." "Yes, all of them." "Well, I don't know about impossible." Jake set the dragon down on his workbench and pulled over his scanning tools. "Let me take a look. I can't promise anything, but I'll see what I can do." "How much will it cost?" Vex asked. Jake thought for a moment. "For something this complex, 300 credits should cover it. I'll need about 3 days." Vex's eyes widened. "Only 300, I brought much more." "That's the price. Fair is fair." "And 3 days, that is all." "Maybe less if it's not too complicated inside. Come back then and we'll see where we are." Vex nodded quickly and pulled out a credit chip. "I will return in 3 days. Please, this is very important, more important than you know." After Vex left, Jake locked the shop door and turned back to the dragon. He activated his scanner and started running diagnostics. The readings were strange, showing systems he had never seen before. There were memory cores, processing units that looked like they could handle real intelligence, and emotion simulators that were more advanced than most ship computers. "This isn't a toy," Jake muttered to himself. "This is something else." He began the delicate work of taking the dragon apart. Each scale could be removed, revealing the mechanical systems underneath. The power cell in the center was completely dead, corroded from years of sitting unused. Several gear assemblies had locked up from lack of maintenance. Some of the wiring had deteriorated and needed replacement. Jake worked through the night, as he often did when a project caught his interest. He cleaned every gear by hand, removing years of buildup. He fabricated new parts where the old ones were too damaged. The power cell was the biggest challenge. He had never seen that design before, and Vex was right that no replacement existed. But Jake was human, and humans were good at improvising. He built a hybrid power system using a human battery design as the base, then carefully interfaced it with the alien technology. It took hours of testing and adjustment, but finally he had something that should work. The voltage was right, the connections were solid, and the safety systems were all in place. 2 days after Vex had left the dragon with him, Jake was ready to test his work. He had reassembled everything, cleaned the crystal scales until they shone, and double-checked every connection. The dragon looked perfect, like it had just been made. Jake took a deep breath and activated the power system. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the dragon's eyes began to glow with a soft golden light. The wings twitched, then spread out fully, each individual scale clicking into place. The dragon lifted its head and looked directly at Jake. "Well, hello there," Jake said softly. The dragon tilted its head, studying him. Then it opened its mouth and released a small puff of glowing plasma that dissipated harmlessly in the air. It was like a tiny flame, controlled and precise. The dragon stood up on the workbench, stretching each leg experimentally. It flapped its wings a few times, then hopped down to the floor. Jake watched in amazement as the dragon walked around his shop, examining everything with clear curiosity. "You're not a toy at all, are you?" Jake said. "You're actually intelligent." The dragon looked back at him and made a soft chirping sound. It walked back to Jake and sat down next to his feet, looking up at him expectantly. Jake laughed and knelt down. "I guess you're waiting for your owner to come back. Don't worry, they'll be here tomorrow." But the dragon had other ideas. It followed Jake as he moved around the shop, cleaning up his workspace. When Jake went upstairs to his small apartment above the shop, the dragon came too. When Jake made dinner, the dragon sat on the counter watching. When Jake finally went to bed, exhausted from 2 days of focused work, the dragon curled up on the floor beside his bed. Jake stared at the ceiling, thinking. The dragon was clearly bonded to someone, probably whoever had owned it before it broke, but it was also showing signs of bonding to him. That was strange. Most mechanical companions were programmed to bond with only one person. Maybe the years of being dormant had reset something. Maybe his repairs had changed the bonding protocols. Whatever the reason, the dragon seemed to think Jake was important. "This might get complicated," Jake said to the darkness. The dragon chirped softly in response, and Jake could hear the quiet hum of its systems as it settled in for the night. He had fixed plenty of complicated devices before, but this was the first time one of them had decided to adopt him. Jake hoped Vex would be happy with the repair work. The dragon was functioning perfectly, better than expected actually. Its movements were smooth and natural, its responses were quick and intelligent, and it seemed completely stable. Jake closed his eyes, satisfied with a job well done. He had no idea that he had just repaired one of the most important items in the Empire, or that his simple act of fixing a broken machine would soon involve him in events that would change his life forever. The dragon's soft breathing was the last thing he heard before sleep took him, the gentle sound of perfectly maintained gears and systems working in harmony. On the morning of the third day, Jake was opening his shop when Vex burst through the door. The scales were pale with stress, and his eyes were wide with something that looked like fear. "Is it done? Did you repair it?" Vex asked, his voice shaking. Jake gestured to the workbench where the dragon sat, its golden eyes watching them both. "Fixed and working perfectly. Better than expected, actually. Want to see?" The dragon spread its wings and released a small burst of plasma, demonstrating its restored functions. It hopped down from the bench and walked in a circle, moving with grace and precision. Vex stared at the dragon and his face went from pale to almost white. "You actually fixed it. You truly fixed it." "That's what you paid me for," Jake said, confused by the reaction. "I told you I'd try. The power system was tricky, but I worked it out. It should run for years now without any problems." "Has anyone else seen it working?" Vex demanded. "No, just me. Why, what's wrong?" Vex closed his eyes and seemed to be fighting some internal battle. Finally, he looked at Jake with an expression of complete despair. "I must tell you the truth. That dragon belongs to Crown Princess of the Empire." Jake blinked. Princess, as in royalty. Yes, it was her childhood companion. It stopped working 7 years ago, and she was heartbroken. Every master technician in the Empire examined it. Every one of them said it was impossible to repair because the ancient power cells no longer exist. They told her it could never work again. Jake looked at the dragon, which was now sitting at his feet. "But I just fixed it with a hybrid battery system. It wasn't that hard." "You do not understand." Vex's voice dropped to a whisper. "I stole it from the royal vault. I took it without permission because I could not bear to see the princess so sad. I risked my life to bring it here, hoping someone in this station could repair it. If they discover what I have done, I will be executed." "Wait, you stole from the royal family?" Jake ran his hand through his hair. "That's serious." "I know, but I had to try. The princess has been sad for so many years. She speaks of her dragon often, mourning its loss. I thought if I could find someone to fix it, I could return it quietly and no one would know." Jake looked down at the dragon. It looked back at him with intelligent eyes, then made a soft chirping sound. "Well, it's fixed now, so you can return it and everything will be fine, right?" "There is another problem," Vex said quietly. "The dragon will not leave your side." As if to prove his point, Jake tried to step away from the dragon. It immediately followed him, staying close to his leg. When Vex reached down to pick it up, the dragon released a warning puff of plasma and backed closer to Jake. "What's wrong with it?" Jake asked. "Nothing is wrong. The dragon was programmed to bond with the princess through years of companionship. They built memories together, shared experiences. But because you awakened it from dormancy and rebuilt its core systems, it now sees you as its primary companion. You are the first person it saw when it came back to life." Jake knelt down and the dragon immediately climbed into his arms. It was warm, and he could feel the gentle vibration of its internal systems. "So it thinks I'm its owner now." "Yes, this is a disaster. The dragon is royal property and heirloom of the crown, but it has bonded with you, a human mechanic. The royal family will never accept this." "Can't we just explain what happened? I didn't know it belonged to anyone important. I was just doing my job." Before Vex could answer, both of their communication devices chimed with an alert. Jake pulled his out and read the message scrolling across the screen. It was a station-wide announcement from the embassy. The message said that items of great importance to the royal household had gone missing. Anyone with information should report to the embassy immediately. Security sweeps would be conducted throughout the station. All were ordered to cooperate fully with the search. "They know it is missing," Vex said, his voice hollow. "They must have discovered the theft." Over the next few hours, Jake watched through his shop window as guards began appearing throughout the station. They moved in pairs, checking shops and asking questions. The normally relaxed atmosphere of the station became tense and formal. Jake kept the dragon, which he had started calling Ember, hidden in his apartment upstairs. But Ember did not want to stay hidden. The dragon kept trying to fly down to the shop, and Jake had to keep carrying it back up. His friend Ben Hayes stopped by the shop that afternoon. Ben ran a small bar 2 streets over and always knew the latest station gossip. "You hear about all this royal drama?" Ben asked, leaning against the counter. "Apparently something was stolen from the princess herself. They are going crazy looking for it." "I heard," Jake said carefully. "Word is the princess is coming here personally. To the station, I mean. That's almost unheard of. Royalty doesn't usually visit places like this." Ben studied Jake's face. "You look worried. Something wrong?" "Just thinking about cultural differences," Jake said. "You know how are about tradition and proper ways of doing things. Makes me nervous when they get this worked up." "Be careful, Jake. Powerful species can be dangerous when they think someone disrespected them. Doesn't matter if it was an accident. After Ben left, Jake went upstairs to check on Ember. The dragon was sitting by the window, looking out at the street below where guards were questioning merchants. "You're causing quite a mess, you know that," Jake said. Ember turned to look at him and chirped. The sound was almost apologetic. Jake sat down on the floor next to the dragon. "I don't regret fixing you. You deserve to work again, regardless of who owns you, but I wish I had known what I was getting into." The dragon climbed into his lap and settled there, warm and content. Jake found himself stroking the crystal scales, marveling at the craftsmanship. Someone had put enormous love and skill into creating this companion for a child. The fact that it had stopped working must have been devastating for the princess. His communication device chimed again. This time it was a priority message that appeared on every screen in the station. Crown Princess of the Empire had arrived at Station Meridian. She was personally leading the search for her missing property. All residents were asked to cooperate with royal guards. A video feed showed the princess stepping off her royal ship. She was younger than Jake expected, probably in her mid-20s by human standards. She wore formal robes, but her face showed genuine distress rather than royal anger. She spoke briefly to the station commander, and even through the video Jake could see she was worried, not imperious. "She really loves you," Jake said to Ember. "I can see it in her face." Vex returned to the shop as evening approached. He looked exhausted and terrified. "The princess is here. She is searching the entire station personally. We are running out of time." "What do you want me to do?" Jake asked. "I do not know. If I return Ember now, I must admit I stole it. I will be executed. But if I do not return it, the princess will never stop searching. She loved that dragon more than anything." Jake thought about the video he had seen, the genuine pain on the princess's face. He thought about Ember, who deserved to be with someone who had loved it for years. And he thought about Vex, who had risked everything out of loyalty to his princess. "We need to give Ember back," Jake said finally. "But we need to do it in a way that protects you." "How? There is no way to return it without revealing what I did." "I'll think of something. Give me tonight." Jake looked down at Ember. "But I think you should be the one to tell the princess where Ember is. She deserves to know you did this because you love her, not because you wanted to betray her." Vex's eyes filled with tears. "I cannot. The punishment for theft from the royal vault is death. I have a family. I have younglings who need me." "Then I'll tell her," Jake said. "I'll explain everything." "She will not listen to a human. Our species do not even understand each other. Value tradition and proper behavior. Humans value chaos and change. She will see you as someone who stole her property." Jake smiled sadly. "Maybe, but I have to try. Someone has to make this right." That night, Jake lay in bed with Ember curled up beside him. Through his window, he could see lights from the royal ship docked at the station. Somewhere on that ship, a princess was mourning the loss of her oldest friend, not knowing it was sleeping peacefully just a few hundred meters away. "Tomorrow is going to be interesting," Jake told the dragon. Ember chirped softly and settled closer to him, trusting and content. Jake wondered if he was making the right choice, walking into a situation that could easily get him killed. But he knew he could not keep Ember hidden, and he could not let Vex face execution for an act of love. Sometimes doing the right thing meant taking risks. That was just human nature. Jake woke to pounding on his shop door. Ember jerked awake beside him, eyes glowing bright with alarm. Through the window, Jake could see it was barely dawn. He grabbed a shirt and hurried downstairs, Ember flying close behind him. Through the shop's front window, he could see Vex standing outside, and behind him were 4 royal guards in formal armor. Behind them stood Princess herself. Jake took a deep breath and opened the door. "Jake," Vex said formally, his voice shaking, "Crown Princess of the Empire wishes to speak with you." The guards moved forward, but Princess raised her hand and they stopped. She stepped past them, her golden eyes sweeping across Jake's modest shop. Then her gaze landed on Ember, who was hovering near Jake's shoulder. The princess froze. Her mouth opened but no sound came out. Her eyes filled with tears. "Ember," she whispered. The dragon looked at her, head tilting. Then it made a soft chirping sound, one that carried recognition and old affection. "Return royal property immediately," one of the guards demanded, reaching for Ember. "Wait," Princess said softly, not taking her eyes off the dragon. She looked at Jake for the first time. "You have my companion, how?" "I repaired it," Jake said simply. "Someone brought it to my shop 3 days ago. They didn't tell me who owned it. They just said it was broken and needed fixing, so I fixed it." "Every master technician in the Empire said repair was impossible," another guard said. "The power cells are ancient technology. No replacements exist." "I didn't know that," Jake said. "I just looked at the mechanical problems and solved them. I built a hybrid power system using human battery technology. It works better than whatever was in there before." Princess stepped closer, her eyes never leaving Ember. "You repaired what our greatest experts could not." "I guess so. I didn't think about whether it was possible or not. I just thought about how to make it work." "This is the human way?" the princess asked. "You do not follow proper methods." "We follow whatever methods get results," Jake said. "If the proper way doesn't work, we try something new." One of the guards reached for Ember again. "Princess, we should secure your property and investigate this human for theft." "I didn't steal anything," Jake said firmly. "Someone asked me to repair something. I did my job, that's all." "Princess," Vex said suddenly, dropping to his knees, "I must confess, I am the one who took Ember from the royal vault. I brought it to this human without permission. I stole from you because I could not bear to see you suffer any longer. I thought if it could be repaired, you would have your joy back. The human is innocent. He did not know who owned Ember." The guards immediately drew their weapons, pointing them at Vex. Princess held up her hand again, and they hesitated. "Vex," she said softly, "you risked death for me." "Yes, Princess, I would do it again. You deserve to have Ember back." Princess looked between Vex, Jake, and Ember. "And you, human, if you knew this was royal property, would you still have repaired it?" Jake thought about that. Yes, something was broken that could be fixed. The owner was sad about losing it. Those reasons are enough for me. "You did not repair it seeking reward or recognition." "No, I repaired it because that's what I do. I fix things." Princess turned to Ember. "Come here, my old friend." Ember looked at the princess, then at Jake. The dragon made a confused, distressed sound. It moved slightly toward the princess, then back toward Jake. Its wings fluttered with agitation. "What is wrong?" Princess asked, alarm in her voice. "The dragon has bonded with the human," Vex said quietly. "Because he awakened it from years of dormancy, it sees him as its primary companion now." "That is impossible. Ember was mine for 12 years before it stopped working. Those memories cannot be erased." "They are not erased," Jake said gently. "Ember remembers you. Look how it responds to your voice. But it also bonded with me during the repair. I was the first person it saw when it came back to life. It's confused right now, trying to choose between us." Ember was clearly in distress, moving back and forth, making unhappy sounds. The dragon's eyes flickered between golden and a dimmer amber color, showing its internal conflict. Jake knelt down slowly. "Hey, Ember, look at me." The dragon turned to face him, wings drooping. "You see that person there?" Jake pointed at Princess. "She loved you first. She was your friend when you were new. She played with you and took care of you for years. When you stopped working, it broke her heart. I can see it in her face. She's been sad all this time, missing you." Ember looked at the princess and chirped softly. "I only knew you for 3 days," Jake continued. "I'm glad I met you. You're amazing, but she's your real family. She's been looking for you. She came all the way here to find you." Jake stood up and stepped back away from Ember. "Go to her, it's okay. I promise it's okay." Ember looked up at Jake, then back at Princess. Slowly, hesitantly, the dragon walked across the floor toward the princess. When it reached her, she dropped to her knees and gathered Ember into her arms, tears streaming down her face. "I missed you so much," she whispered into the dragon's scales. "So very much." Ember settled into her embrace, making contented sounds. The dragon's eyes stopped flickering and became a steady, warm gold. The guards relaxed slightly, though they still watched Jake with suspicion. Princess stood, holding Ember carefully. She looked at Jake with an expression he could not quite read. "You gave Ember back willingly. You could have kept it, used it to demand payment or favors." "Why would I do that?" Jake asked. "Ember isn't mine, it never was, I just repaired it." Most species would see this as an opportunity, a chance to gain influence with royalty. Jake shrugged. "I'm not most species, I'm human. We fix things because they're broken, not because we want something in return." One of the guards spoke up. "Princess, this human performed an impossible repair. He succeeded where our masters failed. This is an insult to technical knowledge." "Is it an insult?" Princess asked. "Or is it a demonstration that different approaches have value? Our masters follow ancient traditions and proper methods. This human follows curiosity and adaptation. Both have worth." She turned back to Jake. "I wish to reward you. Name your price. Money, status, position, whatever you desire." "I don't want a reward," Jake said. "I already got paid, 300 credits, that's enough." 300, the princess looked shocked. "For work that saves something priceless to me, that is nothing." "It's a fair price for 3 days of work. That's all it took." "Then accept a position as royal technician. You would live in comfort, work on the finest devices in the empire." Jake looked around his small, cluttered shop. "I like it here. I like fixing things for regular people who need help. I'm not really the palace type." Princess stared at him like he was speaking a language she did not understand. "You refuse wealth and status. You refuse to work for the royal household." "It's not personal, I just like my life the way it is. Simple, quiet, helping people." "I do not understand humans," one of the guards muttered. Princess was quiet for a long moment, stroking Ember's scales. The dragon purred contentedly in her arms, clearly happy to be reunited with its original companion. Finally, she spoke again. "I am grateful to you, Jake, more grateful than I can express. You returned joy to my life. You did this without knowing who I was, without seeking advantage. This is rare in the galaxy." "I'm glad I could help," Jake said simply. "And you, Vex," the princess turned to her servant who was still kneeling. "You broke sacred law, you stole from the royal vault. By tradition this requires severe punishment." Vex closed his eyes and bowed his head. "I understand, princess. I accept my fate." "But you also showed loyalty beyond duty. You risked everything because you could not bear to see me suffer. How can I punish such devotion?" She looked at the guards. "Vex will face no charges. He acted out of love for his princess. I pardon him completely." The guards looked shocked but said nothing. Vex looked up with tears in his eyes. "Thank you, princess, thank you." Princess looked at Jake one more time. "I do not fully understand your human ways, but I see that you acted with honor. If you ever need anything, anything at all, send word to the royal household. You have earned a friend today." "I appreciate that," Jake said. "Take good care of Ember." "I will, I promise." As the princess and her guards left, Ember turned in her arms to look back at Jake. The dragon chirped once, a sound of farewell and thanks. Then they were gone, leaving Jake alone in his shop as the dawn light grew stronger through the windows. Jake sat down on his workbench, suddenly exhausted. He had just faced down royal guards, refused rewards from a princess, and given up a companion that he had grown fond of. By some standards, he had made foolish choices. But looking at the empty space where Ember had been, Jake felt good about what he had done. Sometimes the right thing and the smart thing were not the same. Sometimes you just had to do what felt human. News of what happened spread through the station within hours. A human mechanic had repaired something the Empire's best technicians called impossible. A human had refused rewards from royalty. A human had somehow bonded with the Crown Princess's most treasured possession. Jake tried to go back to his normal routine, but his shop was suddenly busy. Aliens from a dozen different species appeared with broken devices, all asking if he could fix what their own technicians could not. Some were curious, some were skeptical, but all had heard the story. 3 days after Ember left, Jake was working on a data pad when his door chimed. He looked up to see Vex standing there, looking nervous again. "Hello, Vex. Everything okay with the princess?" "May I come in? I need to speak with you." Jake gestured to a chair. "Of course, what's wrong?" Vex sat down heavily. "There are problems in the royal household. The High Council is very angry. They say it is an insult that a human could repair what masters could not. They claim our traditional methods are being questioned because of you." "I wasn't trying to insult anyone. I just fixed a broken machine." "I know this, the princess knows this, but the council does not see it that way. They see human chaos threatening order. They want you punished." Jake set down his tools. "Punished for what? Doing my job." "For making our technical knowledge look weak, for bonding with royal property, for refusing proper respect by not accepting the princess's rewards." Vex leaned forward. "They are looking for any reason to charge you with crimes. They want to restore pride." "That's crazy." "I agree, but I wanted to warn you, be careful." After Vex left, Jake sat in his shop thinking. He had not meant to start any political trouble. He had just wanted to fix something broken. But apparently that simple act had created waves in an empire he barely understood. 2 more days passed. Jake was closing his shop for the evening when he saw a group approaching. He recognized Princess at the center with guards around her. She was carrying Ember. Jake stepped outside. "Princess, is something wrong?" "Look tired. May I speak with you privately?" "Of course, come in." The guards started to follow but waved them back. "Wait outside. I will be safe." Inside the shop, set Ember down on the workbench. The dragon immediately perked up, looking at Jake with bright eyes. It chirped happily and hopped down, running to Jake's feet. "Hello again," Jake said, kneeling to greet Ember. The dragon climbed into his arms, purring. "That is the problem," said softly. "Ember has not been well since we left." "What do you mean?" "It stopped eating after the first day. It escaped from my chambers 3 times, and each time guards found it sitting outside your shop. When I keep it with me, it becomes sad and its systems slow down. The royal physicians examined it and say there is nothing physically wrong, but Ember is clearly suffering." Jake stroked Ember's scales, feeling the dragon relax against him. "The bonding protocols, they were altered when I repaired it." "Yes. The physicians believe Ember now requires contact with both of us to remain healthy. It bonded with me over years of companionship, but it also bonded with you during the repair process. It needs both connections to function properly." "So what do we do?" Looked around the small shop. "I am moving into temporary quarters near here. My advisors are scandalized, but I do not care. Ember's is more important than protocol. I will bring Ember to visit you regularly so it can see us both." "You're moving here, to the human quarter?" "Yes, is this acceptable to you?" Jake smiled. "Of course I'm happy to help. Ember is special. My people do not understand this decision. They say royalty does not lower itself to live among commoners and aliens. They say I am being influenced by human chaos." "Are you?" Jake asked. "Thought about that. Perhaps. Or perhaps I am simply choosing what matters over what is traditional. That seems like a very human way of thinking. Over the next weeks, Princess visited Jake's shop almost every day. She would bring Ember, and they would spend an hour or two together while the dragon played and explored. At first, the visits were formal and awkward. Was royalty, raised with strict protocols. Jake was a mechanic who wore grease-stained clothes and made jokes about broken machinery. But slowly they began to talk, really talk. Asked about human culture and why humans approach problems so differently. Jake explained that humans came from a difficult planet where survival meant adapting quickly. They learned to improvise, to combine different ideas, to try new things when old ways failed. Jake asked about traditions and why they valued ancient methods so highly. Explained that her people had a long, proud history. Their traditions had sustained them through thousands of years. Following proper ways showed respect for ancestors and maintained social order. But what happens when the proper way doesn't work anymore? Jake asked one afternoon while Ember played with a puzzle box he had made. Then we search the old texts for forgotten wisdom, said. What if the answer isn't in the old texts? Was quiet for a moment. Then we are supposed to accept what cannot be changed, like I was told to accept that Ember would never work again. But that was wrong, it could be changed. Yes, you showed me that. Watched Ember solve the puzzle and chirp with pride. You did something none of my people could do because you did not know it was impossible. You just saw a problem and found a solution. That's the human advantage, Jake said. We're too stubborn to accept impossible. Laughed, a sound Jake was hearing more often from her. My advisors would say that is arrogance. Maybe it is, but it works. Ben Hayes stopped by the shop one evening after I'd left. He looked at Jake with concern. You're spending a lot of time with the princess. People are talking. We're just helping Ember. The dragon needs both of us. I know, but some of them don't like it. They think you're taking advantage of the situation. They think you're using Ember to get close to royalty. Jake frowned. That's not what's happening. I believe you, but be careful. I've heard rumors that some of the nobles are planning something. They don't like seeing their princess spending time with a human mechanic. Those rumors proved true sooner than expected. A week later, station security appeared at Jake's shop with a formal summons. He was being charged with technical sabotage and manipulation of royal property. The charges claimed that Jake had deliberately altered Ember's bonding protocols to create dependence, forcing the princess into contact with him. This is insane, Jake said, reading the document. I didn't sabotage anything, I fixed it. You'll have to present your case to the station council, the security officer said. The faction has demanded an investigation. Jake closed his shop and went to find Vex, who confirmed his worst fears. A group of traditionalist nobles had filed the charges, claiming Jake was a corrupting influence on the princess. They had even produced technical reports suggesting Jake's modifications were designed to cause the bonding problem. That evening came to Jake's shop in a fury. I have seen the charges against you. They are lies, complete lies. I know, but someone put a lot of effort into making them look real. It is the traditionalist faction. They have been opposed to me since I became crown princess. They think I am too young, too willing to change things. They see you as proof that I am abandoning values. I'm sorry, I never meant to cause you political problems. Sat down and Ember immediately climbed into her lap. You have caused no problems. You have only shown kindness and skill. The problems come from those who fear change, who fear that human ways might have value. What do? We fight. I will testify on your behalf. I will bring in neutral technical experts from other species to examine your work. I will prove that you acted with honor. Jake looked at her, seeing the determination in her eyes. This could damage your reputation, standing up for a human against your own nobles. Let it. I choose truth over politics. I choose friendship over protocol. She met his eyes. You taught me that some rules are worth breaking when something important is at stake. That's very human of you, Jake said with a small smile. Perhaps I am becoming more human. Is that so bad? I think it's pretty good, actually. Over the next few days, preparations began for the hearing before the station council. Brought in technical experts from 3 different species to examine Ember and review Jake's repair work. The experts spent hours running tests and analyzing Jake's modifications. Meanwhile, the traditionalist faction spread their accusations through the community. They claimed Jake was using alien trickery to manipulate the princess. They said his refusal of rewards proved he was planning something larger. They painted him as a threat to culture and order. Jake watched his shop's business drop as customers stopped coming. Some aliens avoided him, worried about getting involved in political troubles. But others supported him, especially humans and species who respected his skills. Ben brought news that the traditionalists were organizing a formal complaint to the High Council, demanding the princess return home and end her association with the human mechanic. They're really pushing this, Ben said. They want you gone. I'm not going anywhere, Jake said firmly. I didn't do anything wrong, and I won't let lies stand unchallenged. That night, Ember seemed to sense the tension. The dragon stayed close to Jake, making worried sounds. When arrived for her usual visit, Ember flew between them anxiously, trying to keep them both close. Ember knows something is wrong, said softly. Smart dragon. Jake, if this becomes too dangerous, you should consider leaving the station. I could arrange safe passage. And let them win. Let them prove that humans run when challenged. Jake shook his head. No, I'm staying. We'll face this together. Smiled sadly. You are very stubborn. It's a human trait. You'll get used to it. Outside the shop, unknown to them both, traditionalist agents were already planning their next move. The hearing would be their chance to discredit the human and restore proper order. They were confident they would succeed. After all, who would believe a simple mechanic over noble lords of an ancient empire? They did not yet understand that they were not just fighting one human. They were fighting human stubbornness, human adaptability, and human refusal to accept impossible. Those were forces far stronger than they realized. The hearing room was packed with representatives from dozens of species. The station council sat at a raised platform, with representatives from the major galactic powers. The traditionalist faction occupied one side of the room, their formal robes and stern faces making them look like judges themselves. Jake sat on the other side with a simple advocate, feeling distinctly underdressed in his work clothes. Princess sat in the gallery, with Ember on her lap. The dragon's eyes tracked Jake, and it made small, worried sounds that echoed in the formal chamber. Lord, the leader of the traditionalist faction, stood to present his case. He was old even by standards, his scales dark with age, his eyes sharp and cold. Honored council, we bring charges against the human Jake for technical sabotage and manipulation. He deliberately altered a priceless royal heirloom to create artificial dependence, forcing our crown princess into inappropriate contact with him. Lord activated a display showing technical diagrams. Our experts have determined that the human's modifications to the dragon's bonding protocols were unnecessary and deliberately disruptive. Any competent technician would have restored the original programming. Instead, he created a situation where the dragon requires his presence, giving him leverage over the royal household. Jake listened quietly as Lord painted him as a calculating manipulator. The accusations were detailed and sounded convincing if you did not know the truth. Furthermore, Lord continued, the human's refusal of proper rewards shows guilty knowledge. He knew his manipulations would provide long-term advantage, so he declined immediate payment to avoid suspicion. This is classic deceptive behavior. When Lord finished, the council turned to Jake. Do you wish to respond to these charges? Jake stood up. Yes, everything Lord just said is wrong. I repaired a broken machine that was brought to my shop. I didn't know who owned it. I didn't know it was important. I just saw something that needed fixing and I fixed it. You expect us to believe you had no knowledge of the dragon's significance, Lord challenged. I expect you to believe the truth. The person who brought it to me specifically didn't tell me who owned it. I just did my job. And the bonding protocols. You claim their alteration was accidental. I didn't even know there were bonding protocols. I rebuilt the power system and the core processing. When Ember woke up, it bonded with me because I was the first person it saw. I didn't plan that. It just happened. Lord smiled coldly. Convenient. You accidentally created a situation that forces royal contact with you. Princess stood up from the gallery. I request permission to testify. The council members looked at each other. Finally, the head counselor nodded. The crown princess may speak. Came forward, leaving Ember with one of her guards. She faced the council with calm dignity. I have known Jake for several weeks now. I have observed his character and his actions. The charges against him are false. Princess, with respect, you may be too close to this situation to judge clearly, Lord said. I am close enough to know the truth. Jake repaired Ember when every technician in the Empire said it was impossible. He did this not through deception or forbidden techniques, but through creative problem-solving and adaptation. These are human strengths, not crimes. He violated traditional methods, Lord argued. Because traditional methods had failed, should Ember have remained broken forever out of respect for tradition? Or should someone try something new? Looked at the council. Jake gave me back my oldest friend. When I offered him wealth and status, he refused. When I offered him position in the royal household, he refused. He wanted nothing except to return to his simple life. Does this sound like a manipulator seeking power? It sounds like someone hiding his true intentions, Lord said. I have brought neutral experts to examine the case, continued. She gestured to 3 aliens standing at the side of the room. Master Technician from the Confederacy, Doctor from the Terran Science Institute, and Engineer Quinn from the Assembly. All are recognized specialists in artificial intelligence and mechanical systems. They have examined Ember and reviewed Jake's work. The 3 experts came forward. Doctor, a human woman with hair, spoke first. We have thoroughly analyzed the modifications made to the dragon. The work is exceptional. The hybrid power system is innovative and actually more efficient than the original design. The bonding protocol changes were not deliberate sabotage. They resulted from awakening a dormant AI that had been offline for years. This is a known phenomenon in AI systems. The dragon's consciousness effectively rebooted, and it naturally bonded with the first intelligent presence it encountered. Master, a tall alien, added his assessment. The repair work shows no signs of deliberate manipulation. Every modification serves a clear functional purpose. If the human had intended sabotage, there would be subtle alterations designed to cause problems. We found none. This is honest repair work. Engineer Quinn, whose species Jake did not recognize, concluded, we find no evidence of criminal intent or deceptive practices. The human used unconventional methods because conventional methods had proven insufficient. This is logical problem-solving, not sabotage. Lord's expression darkened. These experts are biased. One is even human herself. I chose experts from species with no political stake in this matter, said firmly. Their findings are objective. The real issue, Lord said, raising his voice, is that this human has corrupted traditional values. Our princess now questions ancient wisdom. She lives among commoners. She befriends aliens. This human represents chaos that threatens our culture. Or perhaps, said quietly, this human represents growth, the ability to learn from others, the courage to admit when old ways are insufficient. The room fell silent. A princess openly challenging traditional values was almost unheard of. Then Vex stood up from the crowd. "I must speak." The council looked surprised but allowed it. Vex walked forward, his scales pale with fear but his voice steady. "Lord speaks of protecting values, but he ignores the most important value of all, loyalty and love. I was the one who took Ember from the royal vault. I stole it, knowing I could be executed. I did this because I served Princess since she was a child, and I could not bear to see her suffer anymore." Gasps filled the room. Even though had pardoned Vex privately, this was the first public confession. "I brought Ember to Jake because I had heard humans could fix things others could not. I did not tell him who owned it because I feared he would refuse such a dangerous repair. He accepted it as a simple job and completed it perfectly. He is guilty of nothing except being skilled at his work." "You admit to theft from the royal vault," Lord said, seeing an opportunity. "Then you will be punished according to law." "No," Princess said firmly. "I have already pardoned Vex. His actions came from devotion, not greed. I will not punish love." "You cannot simply ignore law when it inconveniences you," Lord protested. "I am Crown Princess. I have the authority to grant pardons. I use it now." Turned to face Lord directly. "You speak of tradition and proper behavior, but you ignore compassion and gratitude. You would punish those who help me out of spite and fear. This is not the way I was taught." The council members conferred quietly among themselves. Finally, the head counselor spoke. "We have heard testimony from all parties. The technical experts find no evidence of sabotage. The Crown Princess vouches for the human's character. The confession of the servant Vex explains how this situation arose. We find Jake not guilty of the charges brought against him." Relief flooded through Jake. He had not realized how tense he was until the words were spoken. But Lord was not finished. "This may resolve the legal charges, but it does not resolve the larger problem. The Crown Princess is spending inappropriate time with a human commoner. This sets a bad example for our people." "Then perhaps our people need new examples," said. "I propose a formal cultural exchange program between and human technicians. We can teach humans about precision and traditional craftsmanship. Humans can teach us about adaptation and creative problem solving. Both species will benefit." The council members looked interested. This was an unexpected turn. "Furthermore," continued, "I formally recognize Jake as a friend of the royal household. Not a servant, not a subject, but an honored friend. He will continue to help me care for Ember as the dragons requires both of us. This is not inappropriate. This is simply doing what is best for a companion I love." The head counselor nodded slowly. "The council recognizes this arrangement. The Crown Princess has the right to choose her friends and advisors." Lord looked furious, but he could not argue further without openly defying the council's ruling. He sat down, his expression dark with anger. After the hearing ended, Jake walked out into the station corridor and took a deep breath. Ben was waiting for him, along with several other humans from the quarter. "You did it," Ben said, clapping him on the shoulder. "You stood up to an empire and won." "I didn't win, the truth won. There's a difference." Princess approached with Ember in her arms. The dragon immediately started chirping and reaching for Jake, smiled, and handed Ember to him. "Thank you for standing firm," she said. "Many would have fled or submitted to false charges." "I don't run from problems, I fix them." "I am beginning to understand that this is very human." Looked at Ember, content in Jake's arms. "The cultural exchange program was approved by the council. We will begin next month with a delegation of technicians from both species." "That's good. Maybe we can all learn something from each other." "I believe we already have," gestured to herself and Jake, standing together with Ember. "An unlikely friendship between species that are very different, yet it works because we both chose to be open to new possibilities." Over the next weeks, life slowly returned to normal for Jake. His shop continued its usual business, though now he occasionally received official requests from the embassy for difficult repairs. The cultural exchange program brought young technicians to study human methods, and human engineers went to facilities to learn their traditional techniques. Jake continued to see regularly. She would visit his shop several times a week so Ember could spend time with both of them. They would sit and talk while Ember played, discussing everything from technical problems to philosophy. Their friendship had become genuine, built on mutual respect rather than obligation. One evening, several months after the hearing, Jake was closing his shop when arrived for her usual visit. Ember flew to him immediately, and he caught the dragon with practiced ease. "How was your day?" asked, sitting in her usual chair. "Fixed a navigation computer, rebuilt a data core, and helped a human kid repair her toy robot. Pretty standard." You describe repairing a navigation computer as standard. This still amazes me. What amazes me is that we're sitting here like this is normal. A princess and a mechanic having tea and talking about work. A few months ago, this would have been impossible. "Many things that seemed impossible have become possible," said, watching Ember play with a new puzzle Jake had built. "I learned that from you." "I didn't teach you anything. You figured it out yourself." "Perhaps, but you showed me that it was acceptable to question tradition, to try new approaches, to choose practical solutions over proper protocol." Smiled. "Very human lessons." Ben walked past the shop window and waved. Other aliens passed by, some human, some from other species. They saw the princess and the mechanic sitting together and thought nothing of it. This had become a normal sight on Station Meridian. Jake realized that was the real victory. Not the hearing, not proving his innocence, but this, the simple acceptance of an unlikely friendship. The understanding that different species could learn from each other, respect each other, care for each other. Ember solved the puzzle and chirped proudly, looking between Jake and for approval. They both praised the dragon, and Ember's eyes glowed bright with happiness. "You know what's funny?" Jake said. "This all started because I didn't know something was impossible. If someone had told me that dragon belonged to a princess, that it had defeated the best technicians in an empire, that repairing it would cause this much trouble, I probably would have refused the job." "Then I am grateful for your ignorance," said with a laugh. "Me too. Sometimes not knowing what you're not supposed to do is the best way to get things done." Outside the shop window, the lights of Station Meridian glowed against the darkness of space. Humans and walked the same streets, worked in the same markets, lived in the same community. The cultural exchange program was expanding, with more species joining to share knowledge and methods. And at the center of it all, in a small repair shop in the human quarter, a mechanic and a princess sat together with a mechanical dragon, proving that sometimes the most profound changes come from the simplest acts of kindness. Jake had just wanted to fix a broken toy. Instead, he had helped fix something much larger: the rigid barriers between species, the fear of trying new things, the belief that tradition could never change. He had shown that humans had something valuable to offer the galaxy, not through force or conquest, but through adaptability, creativity, and the stubborn refusal to accept impossible. Had come to understand, the most human thing of all.